Today's guest is someone who has overcome all odds in the world of business. He dropped out of uni, jumped from one gig to the next, only able to afford one meal a day, paying for it in coins, and sleeping on his parents' couch. Today, he is the co-founder of a $7 million and $23 million coaching business and coach to some of Asia's top marketers, consultants, coaches, and also sales leaders. So how did Melvin Soh actually become the success and leader he is today? Let's find out in this conversation. All right, so Melvin, once again, welcome to the Press On podcast, and very excited to have you here to share with us a little bit more about your story, about how you overcome your challenges to become the leader that you are today. And hopefully the viewers and the listeners who are watching this, you get some value out of it, and hope this inspires you on your own journey as well. So Melvin, maybe just a brief overview, tell us a little bit more about your backstory.
So, David, once again, for everyone watching, my name is Mel, and very happy to be here with Preston on this podcast. My story is very simple. When I was 20 years old, I read a lot of biographies, right? Attended some very, very good schools. I attended Chinese High, now called Hwa Chong Institution, and I went to Hwa Chong JC also. I did very, very well in school. My parents always told me it's all about grades, and I think I'm reasonably smart. So I went to very, very good streams in both of these, very hard to get to, quite prestigious schools already. And I remember I was in Hwa Chong JC, we were part of the humanities program, where everyone, Hwa Chong JC are really a very smart group of people. And we were like the smartest of the smart. So we had our own classroom, and all our lecturers were white. And the whole goal of the whole class and the whole stream was to get scholarships to go to universities overseas. So you come back and be commissioners, politicians, and basically school leaders. But I never liked that at all. I only got to that stream because my grades were pretty good. And every day I just wanted to end school early and go and play street soccer. But I just knew that I didn't want to apply for internships, nothing. So all my classmates, year 2 of JC ended, were applying for all sorts of scholarships. PSC scholarship, this internship, and that internship. I applied for nothing.
I hear you.
Yeah, then I went to army, and because of an injury I had before, I had quite a bit of time. So during that period of time, I decided to read a lot of books. And I discovered there were a lot of success biographies, and a lot of these people seem to drop out of school, drop out of uni. I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. That was why I never applied for anything. I don't want to go. So I went to tell my mom, I said, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I'm going to drop out. And she was like, you got 4 A's in the A-levels, you can go to Harvard? Like, why you drop out? I said, but you don't understand. What do Bill Gates, Michael Dell, Steve Jobs have in common? They all drop out. Drop out is the way to go. And she's like, you're stupid. Then you drop out, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to start a business. And so she told me one thing I couldn't argue against then. She said, but if you don't go to uni, how do you know you don't like it? In NLP terms, that's called, there must be a term for that kind of thing. So I was like, hey, you know what? There's logic. There's some logic there. So I said, okay, cool. I'll just give it a shot. So I got a scholarship to SMU. They threw money at me because of my grades, and I went there, but I never want to go. But she hit me at this statement, so I went there and I went for orientation for 6 months. I didn't like it. After a while, I dropped out. And I remember back then, but drop out. That's the one thing. Dropping out is one thing, and why I don't always recommend. So a lot of people hear my story and they're like, "Oh my God, Melvin's rich, he's successful. I should drop out." And I'm like, "No, you never hear the story. Dropping out is one thing. It's like quitting a job, but knowing what to do next is another thing." So I dropped out. That's cool, but I didn't know what to do next. I didn't have money. I didn't have skills. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a sense of direction. And what proceeded on was, in your intro, you mentioned, years of struggle. That's how you end up with not knowing what to do, eating one meal a day, making minimum wage, and having a struggle.
And it's very interesting because you came from somebody who was in all the good schools, good grades, but at the same time, you knowing that that's not something you want to do. How were you able to persevere and press on and push yourself to get all these good grades and get into all these good schools actually? Because for most people who have the idea of dropping out or don't really like school, they don't really have good grades either. So what was on your mind at that point in time?
I'm not very sure. I think I was always a bit of a rebel, but I kind of figured out, at least in school, when it comes to things, I couldn't figure out a way to hack things, which means there were things that you can do to figure out the game. But school, I think, is a very artificial game. If you know how to put in the work and kind of like hack the school system, then you're able to get the grades that you want with not as much effort as everyone. And there's always a smart way to do something and a dumb way to do something. The dumb way to do something is to do every single piece of paper, copy everything, memorize every piece of information. The smart way is to go and look at what came out last year and figured, hey, they're not going to recycle that. So if it came out last year, it sure as heck ain't going to come out this year. So that's a little bit. So if there are 13 chapters and 3 or 4 came out last year, I'm quite sure those 3 or 4 not going to come out the same way.
I hear you.
Especially if the teacher gave that out, then you know for sure it ain't gonna come out. So,
So it's kind of like looking at all the different patterns, and coming up with a strategy to help you to overcome.
Yeah, I think I'm a fairly intelligent person also, but I think at that point of time, school is a artificial thing, and I think life and school are very different.
So tell us a little bit more about what happened after that. After school, you were struggling for that many years. What was going on in your mind?
No, it's very simple. So I see a lot of young entrepreneurs and they are rebels, and when I see a rebel, right, like that's why I like coaching people also, because I feel a lot of people make the same mistakes that I make also, and I just didn't have anyone to teach me. So I see a very rebellious person. I think rebelling is when you dislike something and you go against something. But going against something doesn't mean you know what you want to go for. These are hugely different. Someone says, "Hey man, I hate my job, I want to quit." Okay, cool. But so that's great. That means you don't like something. That's a moving away thing. But what are you going to move towards? So the problem with being rebellious, young people are very rebellious and it's cool. But rebelliousness and creation are very different. Rebelliousness is an act of destruction. I hate this, I want to destroy this. Okay, cool. Then you destroy it, then what are you going to build? Most of them don't have the answer. So that's a problem. Because rebellion must be followed by creation. So you decide you don't want to follow this path. Not following is not a path. Not following is just going against it. Then what are you going to do? And most people don't have the answer to that. So I didn't have the answer to that. And that was why I stumbled a lot. So I don't know who I am. I didn't know anything about business, etc. But I think I didn't know who I am was the biggest issue. Because create a path for yourself, then you kind of need to know who you are.
Can really resonate your story as well, because I started off my entrepreneurship journey when I was only 16. And even then, starting off at a very young age, I too felt very lost for many, many years. Just like you, I did so many different gigs and not knowing what exactly is really going to help me to be successful.
Yeah.
So I can fully relate to that. And especially the point whereby you mentioned, creating that path you want and understanding who you are is being the most important. I think that's so valuable because these days, as we are bombarded by so many different kinds of marketing, content, I think it's so important to not get caught up in the noise and to really understand who you are as a person and move with clarity.
Yeah.
So what was it that really helped you to get clear on your own journey? For you to, firstly bring in some of the greatest names to Asia and then working some of the greatest names in Asia as well. What was it that gave you clarity over these many years?
So people love to ask me two kinds of questions. They ask me how I found it, and they ask me what was my greatest motivator. And I think I like to give the most raw and real answer. So the greatest motivator I had then, people love an answer. They're like, "Oh my God, he closed his eyes and God spoke to him." No, it's hunger. Hunger is my greatest motivator during that period of time because, I make $800 a month. I eat one meal a day. I eat up all the food my mom bought in the house. And sometimes, like when I tell these stories, my mom's the one that reminds me the most of these stories that I don't want to remember. It's like traumatic events. And then she would remind me every time I go back. She's like, "Hey man, remember last time I bought a loaf of bread back?" And by the end of the day, 3/4 of it were gone. I was like, you know what? I don't really want to remember that, but thank you for reminding. Did you remember last time you always went down and paid in coins? I was like, moms, don't let you forget, And I'm like, all right, cool. Thanks for reminding me. I'm going to put all of that in future podcasts and classes that I do. She loves to help me remember.
It definitely is a very, tough time for you during that time, And like you mentioned hunger, right? So while a lot of people get hungry and then they look out for handouts, right? They ask for handouts, and some people, they just ask, but they don't get anything done. With your support for your family, family buys food for you and everything, what was it that, kicked your ass to take action anyway? Sure, being hungry is good, but at the same time, you had the comfort of a relatively safe space.
Yeah.
But what was it that really but really pushed you to?
I think first and foremost, I don't think my family bought food for me. They were buying food for themselves. I just ate everything. They were not buying food for me. They were happy because my mom was like, "Hey, you quit, so screw you. You on your own." So she was not buying food for me. She cooked at night and she was like, "All right, anyone want to eat?" Then, I was like, I'm going to eat as much of this as possible. So there was not a lot of sympathy for me because I chose to be in this position. And she was like, "Hey man, I don't think you should quit." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. I'm going to be rich. So I'm going to quit." So there was no sympathy for me, and it went on for 6-7 years. And my mom told me to be a dishwasher. Half the time she was like, "Hey man, just stop being a bum and just go and do stuff." But I think during that period of time, it was to answer the first question you asked me. There's a lot of experimentation and trial and error, and sometimes people don't like to hear that. And that's why I think there are only two ways to learn. Number one, trial and error. You go out there, you bang in the walls, you touch fire, learn what's hot. Number two is called a mentor, where somebody touch fire and tell you, "I don't really think you should do that." There are only two ways to learn. Right? It's smarter to learn from people who you trust and have been through the road and they attempt to shortcut you versus what I did, which was go touch fire, bang in the walls, do a bunch of dumb stuff, and then afterwards realize, hey, you know what? After you do enough dumb things, you're like, you know what? That's not work. That doesn't work. Hey, I think this one is for me. So that's the answer to your question. 7 years, that's a long time.
And that's amazing because I remember hearing from one of his stories about how, he came across this guy who he knew he needed to go and reach out and to get him to mentor Melvin, right? So tell us a little bit more about that story. What was going on in your mind at that point in time? Because for you to drop everything here, fly over, with the little money that you had to get mentorship, tell us a little bit more about that.
So I think after I quit, then I kind of realized like very quickly I had no idea what the heck I was doing, and I guess I needed help. So there were actually like more than just one single mentor, but there were many things that I did before in an investment of time. And sometimes when I look back, I can really realize that all of these things helped. So number one, I went to volunteer at virtually every single Success Resources seminar by T.F. Ecker and many other people that I could during that period of time. So that was like really, really intense work. Like, I didn't have the money, so there are only two ways to get in. Number one is money, or you work your ass off. So like I worked my ass off. I put tape on the floor. I arranged chairs for thousands of chairs, because last time there were a lot of these. So you arrive 1 or 2 days early and basically do manual labor. Right, you put pieces of paper on every single chair. There's a certain way to put it. You get scolded if you don't put it the right way. And last time we had 5,000-6,000 people there, and I'll just come, I'll open doors, high-five every single person, watch how he sell, and I'll do every single one. And I remember like there were times when if you've been to Singapore Expo, it's really, really huge, and the last train will be 11:22. I remember, and they'll hold their event here. And by the time they let the crew go, I had to run. I really remember the number of times I ran all the way there, but I had money to take taxi home. So if I miss it and Tanah Merah, I stay Bukit Batok. So that taxi is $30. I don't have $30. That's like 4 days of food. So I would sprint all the way there to attempt to catch the last train. So that's one way of learning. Second way of learning was I saw that there was a guy called Marshall Thurber. He was doing a class in Melbourne. And I remember that half had taken a class called Money and You, and Blair Singer and many other people had taken a class called Money and You, created by Marshall Thurber. I was helping out at a program called Super Camp also. It was created by Marshall Thurber. So I was like, I thought this guy's dead. Like, I didn't know his life. So I went to just get any remaining money I had, borrow money also from my then girlfriend. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Melbourne. It's not a cheap place to go. Seminar plus flight. It was like, ugh. But I just really felt this calling that I had to go. And I think that was where I met Bill Allen, which was another one of the great guys that kind of helped me out. And Bill, I remember at the end of the class, he seemed to like me for some reason. They saw young, fire, etc. So he gave me a deal. So in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, apparently, Andrew Carnegie, who commissioned Napoleon Hill to write the book, told him, would you spend 20 years of your life, I'll introduce you to all the most successful people in the world, and you will write a book, but you must spend 20 years of your life doing it. And he gave him, I think, about 1 minute, 60 seconds to decide if you want to do it. It's like, if you agree, then we're going to do this. But 20 years of your life, if you don't want, then you're out.
Yeah.
And Napoleon Hill went to agree, I think, with a few seconds left. That's a big commitment. So Bill didn't exactly ask me for 20 years of my life, but he sat down and he said, all right, cool. I still like you. So do you want to come to my place in California? I said, I've never been to the US. No, I'd been to the US, but I've never been to California that part. So I was like, all right, cool. So let's make some plans for next year. He said, no. If you want, we are going to make some arrangements and we'll see you there in 3 days. I said, whoa, 3 days? Like, whoa, money?
Yeah.
And
what's going on in your mind? Because like you had to borrow money to go to Melbourne, and now this guy is asking you to go to...
Yeah, California, 3 days, we're in Melbourne. And I got plans, But he said, all right, cool, I'll give you 10 minutes. You let me know.
And how do you make it happen?
I got a lot of questions. I got people waiting for me home. I got this, I got that. I was like, oh my God, this is like, these days I'm like, no problem, man, let's go. I'll book the ticket myself. It'll take 10 minutes. Back then, I was a lot of questions. I was like, oh shit, it was like, yeah, you need to borrow a phone. He has a phone to get me calls. And I was like, this is crazy. Then I went to call, And I said, okay, cool, then let's go. And 3 days later, I was at his house.
So you see, right, if you look at this story, that success that you actually have today was an accumulation of all the different many years. I think just like how in many things in life, maybe even in terms of our health and fitness, people want to actually lose weight, take charge of how they look and feel. They expect that they're going to get there in a matter of months. They're going to get there in a matter of weeks. Some of them want instant results by going for this kind of treatments and pills and stuff. But the reality of it is that overnight successes actually takes a lot of time.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And at every point in time in those many 6-7 years, I believe that there were many doubts, there are many challenges that you face, and like year after year, when you haven't got your big break yet, how did you still continue these 6 to 7 years before you met Bill Allen? How was it like during this time,
I think it was just survival. I think during that period of time, like I have no motivation. People like when they ask me, they like, you hold on to some vision. No, I have no vision. In fact, there's probably desperation and the sense like I might have made the wrong choice, and at the same time, it's like, wow, I don't know. So it's a difference between. So being an entrepreneur, you must be okay with insecurity and uncertainty. There's a difference between you work really hard for 7 years, and I promise you, at the end of 7 years, I'm going to give you $1 million. Because then, I've suffered, but, I just need to make it out for X amount of time. But it's a huge difference if in entrepreneurship, if you're going to get the money, is a question mark. So right now, you're suffering and there's like no guarantee. So it's different. I just need to run this and there's somebody waiting for me there. Versus, how long is this race going to go? Is there anything at the end? This is a dumb idea. And then your friends are like, they went to take a job and I go and meet my friends and they're like, they drive a nice car, they got a house, they got all these things. And I'm like, oh man, I'm here 27, close to 30, eating like 1 meal a day. My mom thinks I'm a bum. Like, this is not, I'm on my latest thing, trying to make it work. And it's like, this is not good, man.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like, you've gone through a lot of challenges. And I guess that this will relate to all of the listeners and viewers as well, because entrepreneurship is kind of like life. You don't really know what's the end of the road. You just got to keep going, just got to keep picking yourself back up. The only way through is through. That's what I always say, right? And I think regardless of whatever challenges they were going through, it's all about understanding that life has a bigger plan for us.
Yeah.
Just like how when you met Bill Allen, and then tell us a little bit more about what happened after that.
I think the one thing is, it's great because these days I coach people and we sit down and we talk about work and then, I draw diagrams and explain things. When I met Bill, I think, Bill has a real business to run. It doesn't run a coaching business, so he's not there to coach me. He's just there. He thinks I'm a cool guy and just like, just want to spend some time and there's that. And I went to meet Bill several times, and Bill's a fun, interesting guy. I remember this one time when I was in Bill's house for my birthday. He had me a pair of gloves and a bucket. He said, they're gonna pick rocks. I said, he's gonna pick rocks. Like, it was like this kind of sun, like under hot sun. I thought he was joking. No, he spent 3 hours picking rocks. So Bill believed in getting people to do work. Bill believed in Bill asked me to do a lot of manual labor because Bill has a lot of stuff, and he often wants to go to Costco and buy a lot of things, and so like he will ask me to go and take 41 pieces of chicken and steak and that kind of thing, and I'm the one helping him to load up the thing. But in between, we get a lot of conversations. So it's not like a coaching where like if you need help, you call me and I'm on the Zoom. No, this is like we talk on the way to get shit done, and he making me work. You understand? And in the car, like he will just give me his perspectives. And I think sometimes you observe a successful person and you learn more, even though they might not be breaking down, because then it creates that possibility in your head. Because like you think this cannot be done. Let's say there's a dumbbell here, and you're like, no, anyone can lift it. Then a guy comes and does curls with it. Then you're like, you know what? It can be done. I disagree. It can be done. This is doable. And then you speak to him, and then he's like, oh, I did this. And it tells you in a casual manner, and you're like, all right, I get it. I get it. Like,
it kind of like changed up your reality,
Yes,
the beliefs that you used to have, to realizing that, hey, this is possible for you, right?
Yes, and you watch him do it, and after a while, like, I think you model, but more importantly, you believe. And that's critical. That's why I think that if you want to find a person to help and coach or just like really push you along, number one, you got to find a person who at least has done something you want to do before, because even if he teaches you nothing, you just look at him and go, well, the guy has done it before. So it can be done. So immediately, it's always hard to achieve a goal if you're still toying with the idea of possible and impossible. But you hang out with a guy who clearly has done it before and it's not fluke. So immediately you go, it is possible. Then if he's willing to share with you how he did it, then now you even got a blueprint to make it possible. And if he's an even better person, then he not only tell you the process by which he became, use this to, then it really shortcuts it. But if you don't have this and you just look at it and toy with, can I do it? Is it possible? I don't know. Blah blah blah. So.
I hear you. And like one thing that you share quite often also in your coaching programs, and something that I really believe in as well, is the concept of be, do, and have.
Yeah.
And which is why I firmly believe in what you just say as well, whereby you got to believe first, and you got to really embody that vision, that reality, that person you want to become before you can actually have those things, right? I think if you are to draw relations to your story 6 to 7 years ago, while yes, you were hungry, you were surviving, I guess it's really about the process of becoming the person that you want to be today. And what was your big break, that actually got you to got you the momentum to develop you into the leader that
I
you
think
are?
after I hang out with Bill and, I went to different places and Bill gave me some opportunities, I realized that I can do this. I can do this overseas. I started to connect it with some of the other things I've done with the kids programs and etc. And I started to realize, oh my God, it's so obvious, right? Like, I think I'm really good at selling. I'm really good at presenting. I'm really good at helping people. I know how to do these kind of things. And I've attended a lot. And it all clicked, right? Before, it was like jigsaw puzzle pieces and you're like put in different piles. Then, but together with Bill's help, because he can see something in me that I probably couldn't see. Like, when I look back, it's kind of obvious. But then he helped me like connect the pieces and I was like, oh no, you have this ability. Like, this is something. Then he said, well, I believe that you can do it. So I don't think I'm wrong. I'll go like, well, I guess if the guy has money, I don't think he's wrong. Then I started to see it like, oh my God, like, I think I can do it. And I think I came back, it translated in my understanding of my abilities, in my actions. And I think that was when things started to click. Because before that, like I said, a lot of jigsaw puzzle piles or pieces, no jigsaw puzzle.
So you were lost for a while.
Yeah.
And then now things have started to click, things have started to make sense. So what was it during this time? How was it like during this time that actually really drove you forward to make the breakthroughs that you did?
I think it's exciting because the moment because before that you got piles and pieces, but you got no puzzle. But once you start putting a few things together, you're like, oh my God, I can see how this works now. Like this piece fits here, and all of a sudden you start to move real fast. Because before that you're like, oh, jigsaw puzzle, like I don't see a puzzle, right? But once someone helps you connect like 3 or 4 pieces, and you start to go, okay, wait, that piece goes here, that piece goes here, that piece goes here, and all of a sudden then you start to make more and more pieces, and you're like, oh my God, this is so exciting! Like I can see a picture, this is going somewhere.
Right. So it's so important to really have somebody who's been there, done that, know exactly the blueprint to really help you to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just be like what you said, just jigsaw puzzles all around.
Pieces
all around. You kind of like have an idea, but you don't really know how.
But you have no
either.
puzzle. You need the first 3, 4 pieces. Because the moment you have that, then there's your guiding post to create the rest of the picture.
So it sounds to me as though, for someone who really wants to achieve a breakthrough in their life, having some kind of mentorship or coach could be useful to really guide them. So if someone is going through any kind of challenge, sometimes it's about looking not only just within, but also outside for help that actually really makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, just people have always learned from others. I think that's the one thing. Knowledge is passed from one person to another, right? And it's been here for like millennia. Everyone gets a good break from somebody who has been there before, right? So like we talk about the World Cup now, they've had Lionel Messi, right? Recently just won World Cup with Argentina. You know who gave Messi his first break? Ronaldinho at Barcelona. Because you saw this kid, 17 years old, and he started to take him under his wing. Ronaldinho, former FIFA World Player of the Year. He was the one that gave Messi the first break. He was like, this kid's cool, I'm gonna teach him, so even Messi has like that guy, so we all have that person. For us, Kobe had to look up to Michael because he's very open about it, right? He was copying Michael's move. So everyone has that person that they look up to because it's very hard to learn everything all by yourself. And that was one thing I didn't gather. That's why I'm so passionate about this now. I'm passionate about helping people that want to be helped. Because a long time ago, my mom told me, if you want to get something done, you do it yourself. So I thought to myself, you know what, I'll figure this out. So I thought I'm quite smart. Now I'm like, I think I'll find someone that's done it before. Yeah.
I used to also share the same kind of belief that I had to do it by myself.
Yeah.
Having been...
I'll figure it out myself. I got to do it myself. It's all me. I'm going to be the smartest person
Right. But I think after knowing you for so long as well, and Melvin's my coach as well when it comes to the world of business, I realized that really, truly, no man is an island.
Yeah.
Today, we are an accumulation of all the different experiences, mentorship, guidance that people actually give us for us to really believe in ourselves again and to really move towards the vision that we want to create.
Yeah.
So I used to think that with that me, myself, and I mentality, I could get things done. But in fact, I only realized that I'm the person that's holding me back.
Yeah, and I can speak on that. So for anyone who's watching, most entrepreneurs are very, I would say, selfish, self-driven, right? They think a lot about what they want to create, etc. And I think that's great because it powers the person. But they also need that perspective where they think about the team and think about building a team and having partners and sharing and this kind of thing also. And I want to explain about that. Because the reason is every single person, the moment you think only about yourself, you're never going to do big things. For a very simple reason. I'm going to give you 3 to 4 reasons. Number one, you have 24 hours a day. So that's already limited. So you have limited time. Second of all, you have limited energy. So you're not a robot also. Right? Robots can go on and on and on. You need to take a break. So you got time, limited time. You got limited energy. Now the third thing is you got strength and weaknesses also. So every single person has strengths and weaknesses. So immediately, you don't have a lot of time. They have a lot of energy. You have limitations also. And then the last one is your limits in knowledge.
Right.
So you can only read this much, or you only know this much. So the moment you add limit, and you only have you, then you can, by that extension, realize that your success is going to be limited. So if you want to do small things, please go and do it yourself. But you'll never do anything big.
So I mean, you've done a couple of things also as well. I mean, you went on from doing some internet marketing stuff, I believe.
Long time ago, yeah.
And then dating after that,
Yeah.
and then after that, super camp.
Yeah.
So today you run one of the most successful coaching businesses.
Two, I would say. I do
two.
X Factor and I do another one with different partners.
Yes, right. So what gave you the conviction that these are the guys that you want to work with? How do you know that these are the A players that you want to work with? Having been through so many different kinds of things before, or ventures before, how do you know that, hey, these are the guys that I want to really work with, and today have become a mammoth of businesses, 7 million and 23 million as well?
I would say, first and foremost, when you're looking for business partners, that's secondary. Understanding yourself is the most important. It's kind of like looking for a wife and girlfriend. People are so eager to go and find a partner. It's like, hey man, if you don't understand who you are, then you're going to find a confused person, or the person's going to come in and go be seriously disappointed. So I say, before you start a business or look for partners or look for teams, like, please go and know yourself first. And in some way, I had 7 years of that, right? Long nights, lonely nights, broke nights, and I had to think, like, what do I really want to do? So eventually, like, when I found it, it was cool. Like, I was very clear vision. This is what I want to do. With that vision, then you start to attract people, because then you can communicate to people, hey, I think you should join me because we are going to do this together. But if you confuse, like, hey man, I got an idea for, then who want to join you also, right? So you must have a clear vision, then you attract people. So the first time I was very clear, I want to promote my mentor, Marshall. And that's how I found Joe. When I sat down, I told him he had other things going on then. I said, hey man, I'm very passionate about doing this. I think he can make money. I think he can help a lot of people. Do you want in?
You give him 10 minutes as well, just like Bill Allen.
I think that's not how Joe works. But then he thought about it. I was like, all right, cool. For some reason, even though I don't know who you are, you seem real passionate about this. All right, I'll do this with you. So you need to have that clarity. Otherwise, nobody's going to join you. Same for my other partners in terms of the other work that we do, masterminds and many other things. So they look at me and they go, okay, I think this guy knows what he's doing. I think he's solid, and I think it's the skills, and let's partner together. So that's critical. So before I look for partners, you got to be solid. Then number two, you got to look for partners that have the same core values, want to go in the same place, but are complementary. That is like the best business advice. Is better than 5 years of MBA. Just 3 elements. Number one, they must believe in the same thing. So one of the things I like to talk about is core values. Core values are critical because there are no good or bad, right or wrong core values. So for example, some people believe that as I make more money, I should work harder. Want more opportunity. Some people believe as I make more money, I should work lesser because I got more time. Now who's correct? Both are the same. It's just that one believes one thing and one believes in nothing. It's like, some people believe in Christ and some people believe in Allah. So who is correct? Hey, we'll just start a riot here, but you're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. But then there becomes a problem when, let's say, a person thinks that success, right? The more success you get, I work harder. Someone believes the more success I get, I work lesser. If these two people collaborate, oh man, they're going to split because they don't believe the same thing. So it's not whether it's right or wrong and what they believe. So the core value is the first key. Number two, they must go in the same direction. Same direction means they want the same thing. At the end of the day, some people want to create a worldwide thing, some people want to have that, like whatever that is. A lifestyle business is different from a dominant, huge global business. You might not have the lifestyle, but some people are willing to trade, chilling out on the beach in Bali for doing big global things. So it's like same as core values. What's your end goal? Some people want 1 billion, some people want multi-billions, some people want 100 million, some people want passive income 150K a year. And they cool. And so what's the vision for the business and also the life that you want? That's the second one. If we are very different, your goal is to make 200K a year to chill. And my goal is to have a $500 million business that I can sell for that amount. We're not always going to be on the same page. And the third thing is complementary. Complementary means it's a bit like football. You can't play football with 11 strikers. Who's going to defend? And sometimes people, the biggest mistake, or one of the biggest mistakes people do is they get into business with their friends. Now, when you're friends with a person, you must be probably similar. And that's a problem. Because now, let's say I speaker, you speaker. Now we both speaker. Then who do back end? Well, you all want to stay at the front. And now we got different ideas of who should be the star. So, oh my God, this is a nightmare. So I would say most of the time, please do not start business unless you're complementary with friends or family. Family's biggest problem is you can't fire them. So they have a sense of entitlement. Unless you have set the context properly and family can come in and be like, we might share the same surname, but I'm going to work really hard to justify. Otherwise, you have a sense of entitlement, like, hey, you're my brother, so I can sit and do nothing. So that's not good. Friends, most of the time, we're similar.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of clash
Yes.
right there.
So you need a person at the front and a person at the back. And sometimes these people are not friends. So but they're great partners.
I hear you. And I mean, sharing all of this, it's really insightful. And of course, end of the day, like what you said initially, it's really about boiling down to who you are as a person and understanding your clear vision before all of these pieces can fall into place anyway, right? All the partners and everything is good. But how does somebody, really understand their current values or understand who they really are? I mean, some of us listening and watching this may not have another 6 to 7 years, or at least they think they don't have 6 or 7 years to go and explore and figure things out. So what would you say would be some of the advices that you want to give to them?
I see, first and foremost, I disagree that nobody has 6 or 7 years. Unless you have terminal illness, you're going to have the time. If you're not going to take the time, then you're probably going to make poor decisions that will cost you more in terms. So I would say you don't have to do it the way I did. It was very painful, but I'll constantly go and take a look at the things that you value and start driving towards building things that go in that direction. Because if you don't, then it will fall apart. I have been in this scene next year. As of now, 2023 is going to be my 16th year of doing business. It's a long time, 4 years away from 2 decades, man. And like a lot of people say they do for 16 years, but they work maybe once a week. I do this like 7 days a week. Like, I was telling you, if I don't do this, I also know what I'll do with myself. It's supposed to be my rest week. Here I am doing this. So my 16 years is probably somebody's like 25 or 30 years, right? So I've done this a long time, and I noticed that a lot of people come into business because they want to make money. And they come from, and people that have that drive to make money usually come from a broke background or don't have a lot of money or feel very trapped. And so they're driven by freedom, and usually financial freedom, money. But then they never pause to talk about values, but say, this kind of shit, let's just talk about making money. But what happens is, there are 2 tragedies in life, Mark Twain says. One is not getting your goal, and another is getting your goal. So let's say you do indeed make the money, but now you're empty, and now you're like, okay, I have the money, but I don't like what I do. But then again, the same question, if I close this down, then what do I want to do? Like, this is, every day you lose the passion for it because you have made some kind of money and you hate what you do, but you're afraid to close it down because you actually don't know what you want to do. I've seen that countless times, and since 2008. That's why I joke at X Factor, the class that I do, and every word I say in that class is wisdom, but people receive to the level that they're at. So one of the things I say is, what do you think is the average lifespan of the average speaker you see? Answer is 2-3 years. The reason is 2-3 years is because they join the industry to be famous and make money. They don't actually want to help, But after they join, they're like, I don't know if I like this. They're depressed. It's not what I want to do. Then they close it down. It's happened since 2008. People, you would think that people learn, but people never learn. People never learn. Till these days, you still see the same thing. But now it's on the internet. Last time it was live. Last time you see this guy make a lot of promises, he comes up, he's gone. I was thought to myself, that's kind of weird. Like, how come these people like pop up like mushrooms like that? Whoop, 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 whoop. The number of people that's still around right now since 2008 is very few.
If I were to draw some relations to that, right? I mean, you can see in the world of fitness, every different cycle, there's some fad diet, some kind of trend, and I guess it's so similar. If everyone's going to be...
Fitness influencers also, they come up for 2 or 3 years, then they're gone.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I think it's so important to really understand why you are really doing something. Like what you say as well, your values, like the purpose of why do you do what you do. Personally, like for me as well, I started off with a similar challenging background, but I think what really helped me to keep going is really the fulfillment of helping someone to achieve their transformation goals. Just like how today you help all the different many entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants as well to really transform into a leader of their own organization, a leader of themselves, so that they can continue to create an impact and influence.
Exactly.
And if today all our goal was just to make money, then we won't be having very fulfilled lives.
Yeah, and I think it powers for a bit. So being driven by money, right, it's like burning, just a very bright, very high heat, but one that burns out fossil fuel. So it's really bright. You make a lot of noise. You're very, very driven for a short amount of time, but the fossil fuel runs out, and it causes a lot of pollution. Being driven by your spiritual mission, and if you can find it, your values, this kind of thing, it's like burning charcoal. That can last a whole night. So a lot of people they're just burning the fossil fuel. It's like really bright, it's very hot, but it just runs out. It runs out just as fast. And the goal is I'm not saying that's bad. Use that, but transfer to charcoal ASAP or some sustainable energy. Who knows? EV. transfer to battery, like whatever that can be more sustainable. Because it's like, are you going to be as enthusiastic? And I see so many young entrepreneurs, you say my IG, right? They're like, yeah, man, I hustle 7 days a week, lah. I don't sleep, lah. I'm like, hey, man, what, do you have a girlfriend? What, do you have a wife? You going to maintain this? You're not? Like, how long can this last? I'm always about sustainable. You come to expected class, what's the first thing I said? I say, we're here about sustainable success. And you don't understand sustainable when you're 23. But you just like, no, I can do this. No, hey, I'm 34, going on 35. I'm like, we need to think about, are we going to do this in the long term?
Exactly.
16 years, man, next year, so. But if it's your first 6 months, you don't care. You operation, no sleep. It's like, all right, we see how long you can keep this up.
I mean, what you said really makes sense. I face these situations every day when I speak to different people, particularly because the work that I do, I really help men to really take back control of their health and fitness. And a lot of times, they actually come in with the idea of, I want fast results.
Yeah.
Only to realize that...
I work out 2.5 hours a day. I'm like, you're going to do this for 10 years? Like,
exactly,
no,
right.
What is going to break down? Like,
and most of them are actually business owners, entrepreneurs, executives. They have their own responsibilities. Maybe right now is the end of the year, they can actually push themselves to do stuff. Come New Year, usually the same cycle repeats. So it's really so important to have something that's sustainable in every aspect of our life.
I think so as the end of the year, as we're shooting this, the end of 2022, I think people should understand you got to be as excited about your goals. And it's really critical, time perspective. I think maturity, having the length of time really helps. You got to be as excited about your goals in January as you are in March, as you are in May, as you are in October, September, and November and December. You same passion, but some people are like, yeah, man, let's go. In Jan, it's like, hey, are you gonna let's go in mid-November? Because I want to hang with you if you're gonna do that. I don't want you to let's go. Maybe we'll go. I can't go. Like what go? I forgot to go.
Yep. Awesome, man. And of course, I think that this has been a very, very valuable podcast, and I'm pretty sure that the viewers and the listeners as well are getting a lot of value out of it. And with that being said, is there any other closing message you want to actually share with the audiences tonight?
I think at the end of the day, see, interviews like this, it really helps to distill the philosophy. I think one of the great things that Bill gave me, he didn't give me any closes, marketing tips, etc. This is not what he does. But I think the greatest thing that we can get is philosophy and perspective. So here's a great, different kind of philosophy, right? Nazism had their philosophy, and that was not so good, huh? Then you got philosophy that is communism, right? No matter how good or bad you do, we all have the same thing. Oh, that's an interesting philosophy. You can see it's not going to motivate a lot of people, And then you have other meritocracy is a philosophy. So these are all philosophies. Success is the same thing also, right? Here are philosophies and perspective. Some people have a philosophy. The moment I'm born, when I'm born poor, that means my life's screwed. There's nothing I can do. Look at you, you're born rich, and that's why you're successful. That's a philosophy. Some people say I was born poor, so it gives me greater drive in order to succeed. Some people say my family has a generation of generational poverty or doing the same thing. I guess not much I can do. Some people say, no, I'll be the first to end that and start something new. So it's a perspective, and also it's a philosophy. And at the end of the day, I think people should evaluate their philosophy. I used to hang out with a lot of people whose favorite thing was like, hey, this is the way life is. And you can tell by the small things that people say. 就是这样的咯, where they just accept. Like, we are born in Singapore, this is the way life is, we just need to accept it, suck thumb, and this kind of philosophy. And you have been through the army or different places, you hear this philosophy, and if you buy into that philosophy, which is the fact that we are just normal people, there's nothing we can do, we are victims, and blah, 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 and you act according to that philosophy, then you're going to generate a life that goes here. But if you have a different philosophy, which is, I disagree, I want to see what I can do to create and design a life for myself, that is a different philosophy. And remember, there are no good or bad philosophies.
Just what you subscribe to at the end of the day.
And a perspective also. A perspective is, you asked a question just now. Some people say, I don't have 6-7 years. But unless you're going to die, you 6-7 years later, you're going to get there. The question is, when 6-7 years later, are you going to be rich and happy and where you want to be, or you're not? So that's perspective and the philosophy. So I say, if I were to look back at the difference, I'll say belief is one. A greater belief than I had when I was starting out. I say I do my best to evaluate my philosophy these days, right? And I realized be very careful about what philosophy you buy into. And the last one is perspective. Perspective is Do you believe or do you see that it's something that can be done? I think, and my final word is, as you do something, do not let the people who have never done it before convince you it cannot be done. I'm going to repeat that. As you do something, especially do great things, do not let the people who have not done it before, because they have no experience with it, but they are very passionate about it, you cannot do it. Be very, very careful. Because the moment you buy into that, then, and also they have no evidence of saying it cannot be done. Because those people are dream killers.
Yep. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome.
Really appreciate you having here.
Awesome.
And hope that everyone who's watching this, really get some value out of it and overcome your challenges. See you guys soon.